Salutations one and all, and welcome back to the big summer of funding applications. This is a video that really you should have been seeing a lot earlier ago. Obviously put the video out introducing this project on June 1st, but then, as happens with fate and best laid plans, about a week ago today, my laptop decided that its keyboard and its trackpad just didn't fancy working anymore, and so decided that it needed a trip to the vets. So it has now been repaired. I am recording from it again. Here is the first, I guess, of our kind of main ILP big summer funding applications vlogs. Now, we can talk a lot about funding, we can talk about a lot of how it works, but I think the best way to actually go through this process is actually by doing it. So over the course of the summer, I'm going to be applying for a whole load of funds, and I'm going to be doing as much of it as I can via these kind of informal vlogs to kind of showcase the process with you and walk you through exactly what I'm doing on a kind of step-by-step basis, so that you have a really clear idea in your mind of like, okay, this is vaguely how I would do it, and that is definitely how I don't want to do it, because those are the things that Finn does that I think are a bit silly. But anyway, that's all over to you. The first thing worth saying, of course, is that if you're going to apply for a fund of any sort, you need a project. So I thought it would be good to do this first initial video on funding a project, basically, and what that means, and how you actually pick a project that's worth funding, and what are the things to watch out for. Let's start with what a funding application form actually is. Now, I am going to record a video in which we look at a form so that you've got a very clear idea of like, this is what a funding application form vaguely looks like. But the long and the short of it, for those of you who kind of want the facts now and don't want to have to go through another video, is it's a lot of questions and it's a lot of work, and it's very sit down and tell every single detail that could possibly ever be imagined about a project again and again and again and again. So making sure that you're ready to do that, and that you're passionate enough about whatever your idea is, that you're ready to tell all those details again and again and again and again, is very important. And also, if by some crazy miracle you happen to have been in a situation where you had to give those details over and over again, I'm not going to go through all the agains because that was quite exhausting to go through all of them, but you get the point. It's the details, and it's saying them, and it's outlining them, and it's being really, really clear about exactly how this works. So I decided, in the process of me deciding which projects I would apply with, that I would pick the ones where I'd kind of done that the most. Now, this is just a quick overview of these projects. I'm going to go through each of these projects in a little bit more detail as I start going through the process of writing the funding application forms for them. This is just to give you a roadmap of kind of what to expect over the course of summer. So, the first thing that I want to be working on this summer is to do with the fact that Magnetic North have an amazing fund out there that is designed for emerging early career artists to gain an opportunity to fund work that is in development, and specifically work that wouldn't get made if it weren't for their support. Now, the idea of this fund, and fortunately I'm going to be speaking to Nicholas Bone, the head of Magnetic North, to actually go into a bit more depth on what the fund is and how it works and how it all gets put together. But the point is that it's not enough money that it would be able to take it to this is full completion, this is it done. It's sort of development funding-ish, but development funding is a very vague term that I got to admit I don't totally understand myself. So it's development, it's funding for development, but might not necessarily be development funding, depending on exactly what development funding is, which again, hopefully we'll get into over the course of this project. But that is a really exciting fund, and the deadline is June 27th, so I definitely want to go and apply for that before the deadline is up. I'm going to be applying with a project called Chance Will Be a Fine Thing, which is a project that I have devised with Mirren Wilson. It's a family theatre show that takes in themes about being a sort of alien spirits type character creature and coming into the foreign, crazy environment that is rural Central Belt Scotland. Mirren is a Falkirk-based creative, so she has a lot of experience of having been in the area. The piece is really brilliant from the initial kind of script bits and pieces that we've done with it, and somebody needs to see it because it's very good. We additionally had a bit of kind of, how do I put this? Encouragement, I guess I'd say, in that this was a project that we applied for the Create Inclusion Fund that Creative Scotland runs, and about 2 weeks ago we got the feedback back, which was extremely positive, and here are a lot of things done well, but unfortunately we couldn't give you the funding. So with that in mind, and with a lot of the kind of main details and answers that Magnetic North are going to ask for on their form ready to go, I am planning to do a lot of taking what's on there, reformatting it and refitting it to fit the exact questions that are being asked, and sending it off in the hope that we might be able to get successful there. Also working on, and again, I apologise in advance because this project is in Welsh, and therefore my pronunciation of this is going to be absolutely terrible, and Fionn, if you're watching this, you're going to kill me, but Fionn Denman is a brilliant Welsh photography, artist, curation, cool, fantastic person, and we've been working for about a year now to put definitely a funding application for Arts Council Wales, but various other private sector ones as well, for a project that would see her travel out to Patagonia to investigate the Welsh influences from various immigrants who went out there in the mid 1800s. And similarly, a kind of second half of the project that would see a lot of Argentine voices in Wales, kind of showcasing, confirming kind of what those communities on both sides of the Atlantic look like. And that is called, and again, I'm really sorry about this, Wadlifa Gymraeg. So I apologise to any Welsh listeners for my absolute butchering of that. I will put it on the screen about now so that you can be really, really clear onto exactly what I just said, and go look it up because it's a really interesting concept, really interesting part of history, and we're looking forward to working with Fionn to not only sell the funding applications on this, but hopefully be able to make the project happen. And finally, if you're still watching this video about 8 minutes into it, we're bringing a show to Birmingham Rep, which is a bit crazy to be saying and processing out loud. I still haven't gotten my head around it, but the wonderful Indra Wilson has created a show called Till I Die, which looks at slasher films and kind of domestic violence against women and how the two kind of relate and interact with each other. It's an interactive piece. It's incredibly slick. I was about to say sick. It's incredibly slick. It could also be incredibly sick, depending on how you look at it, but it's incredibly interactive, it's incredibly cool, and it's incredibly fierce. And Birmingham Rep have been very, very kind and supportive to us in this process, and we will be performing that, Indra will be performing that on October 31st and November 1st at Birmingham Rep. Now, what does this actually have to do with the funding? Well, we're very keen to use the fact that we have this momentum and we have this really exciting opportunity with the project to try and get tour funding associated with it. This performance that's going to happen is obviously down in Birmingham. There's definitely a market for a show like this to go around Scotland and go to various different venues there. Again, similar to development funding, I just don't know a lot about touring funding. So I'm speaking to various people about trying to get somebody onto Money Talks to talk to me about what touring funding is and how it works. That is the one that's a bit kind of like, I'm not so sure if we're going to be able to apply for this, but we're going to try because an experiment is worth 1,000 expert opinions and all that jazz. So, this has been a very long vlog. I don't think they'll all be this long, but if you're still watching, thank you very much for staying on board and sticking with me through all of this. We'll be back over the coming weeks to talk about next steps in this process, but yeah, to kind of underline this again, if you have a project you want to fund, make sure you're ready to talk about it again and again and again and again and again, and that you love it enough that you're happy to prepare for the fact that you'll want to bang your head against the wall by the end of doing this process. And luckily for all of you, you'll get to see me do all of that live through here. So, here's looking forward to the rest of the summer.